All right, here it is. We are going to finish the book, An American Sickness by Elizabeth Rosenthal. I can say that again. And this is the last chapter, I believe, of our series on Luigi's bookshelf, An American Sickness. There are other parts of this book that are epilogue. Well, we're going to cover the epilogue. We're going to do chapter 17. We're going to do chapter 18. We're going to do the epilogue. 17 is ridiculously small. I mean, it is tiny. So we're going to breeze through 17. We're going to make a few comments on 18, not super long there either. Hit the epilogue, also not very long. And that will all be done in a short period of time. It's probably going to take me longer to do this monologue than it does to do those chapters. Probably not. But anyways, very close. And then there's a lot of extra fluff at the end, which I'm not going to cover. I skimmed over it to look what it is. It's not something that I think is worth our time. We're just going to go ahead and finish this book. It does have an important point to close on, so I hope you'll stay and consider watching to the end to close on that. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. Again, this is Elizabeth Rosenthal's book, An American Sickness. We're going to go ahead and jump now to, if you look at the table of contents that I'm putting on screen, we're going to go down to chapters 17, Bills for Tests and Ancillary Services, 18, Better Healthcare in the Digital Age, and then the epilogue. And we're not going to read the afterword, and we're definitely not going to read all these appendices. But let's go ahead and jump right into this section. So let's not waste any time. In the past, the cost of tests and ancillary services used to be covered by insurance with little or no patient contributions. Today, patients are often expected to foot at least part of the bill. Because these services are almost always ordered with no patient input about where they are to be performed, hospitals and doctors can manipulate the choice as a means to increase revenue. Now, I want to stop right there for a moment, because one of the things that Elizabeth Rosenthal is going to teach us from this book that's already outdated. This book is at least 10 years old, I believe, and it's gotten worse since Elizabeth Rosenthal wrote this book. Not better. It's gotten worse. And in this book, she's been telling us for 3/4 of the book how bad the healthcare system is and how you don't have any choice in anything that's happening, and that everything's being manipulated by your doctor, by your hospital, and by the insurance companies. And so she even tells you in this sentence that hospitals and doctors manipulate their choices of where to send your tests and ancillary services so they can increase revenue. She tells you that in the very chapter in which she tells you to not let them do that. But we don't have a choice. So, protect your wallet. Do not have any tests or services performed by a provider outside of your network. Let me say this. Most of us never get to have that discussion. When you go to a doctor, they will say, "Hey, I'm gonna get some blood work done for you. I'm gonna get this test done for you." You don't then break into a negotiation with your doctor and start asking him questions. Well, is that in network or out of network? Are you gonna do that here in the lab, or are you gonna ship it out to? All of the things that she tells you that you should do, she's already told you will qualify you as a difficult patient if you try to have that discussion. Your doctor is going to treat you as if it's really not your business, and they will even tell you, I don't take care of the billing, I don't know how it works, but it's all a big shell game. And so she continually tells you to do things that don't work in practicality. And most people you don't even think about it. You go into the doctor, they tell you that they're going to do this test or that, you say okay, and they go do it. You're not aware of where it's being done or how it's being done or whether it's in network or not. You just trust what they tell you. That's the way it's supposed to work. But they have decided to become corrupt and bilk you and try to get all kinds of crazy ways to make more money out of you. So the only thing you can do as a consumer really is educate yourself that whenever they ask you for a test or whatever, more than likely it may be frivolous. But again, good luck asking your doctor, is this really necessary? Well, if your fucking doctor asked you to get it, pardon my French, then they probably are going to say, who are you to question me? I told you that you should get it done. So how many times are you going to ask the doctor, is this really necessary for you to bill me what you're billing? How's that conversation going to go? That's what she's asking you to do essentially all the time, is question your doctor all the time on whether or not what they're asking you to do is really necessary or not, and see how that goes. As a general rule, avoid having your ordinary blood work and fluid specimens sent to a hospital lab. Ask your doctor to direct them to commercial labs that's in your network. So again, when I go to my doctor and he says he wants to get labs to see where I'm doing on my cholesterol, my blood sugar, I go into the hospital where he asked for me to get it done because he puts in an order. So this is the way it works for me, at least. So if the doctor says I want to get some labs, I can't just walk into a lab and say, hey, I want to get blood work done. They will say, well, I don't see a doctor's order. So the doctor puts in the order for you. Where that doctor puts in the order for you is where you're getting the freaking blood work done. So in my choice, I don't have a choice. The doctor puts in the blood work order to the hospital where he works. I go to their lab and I say, hey, I need to get some labs according to my doctor. And they said, oh yes, I see Dr. So-and-so's got you here for some labs. We'll do those labs for you. This is not a discussion. I don't get to say, well, you know what? Can you send those labs somewhere else? Can we do blood draws somewhere else? No, because the doctor puts in the order, and if he doesn't have the order on file, you're not getting it done. That's at least my perspective on how it works. So again, it's something that we can't even do. All right, ask the commercial lab for a printout. Ask the commercial lab for a printout of your results as a backup, just in case it is unable to transmit them electronically to your doctor. So now when you go to the lab, you're supposed to say, hey, can I get all my test results before you send them to the doctor? I don't think that works at all. Maybe in 10 years ago, maybe that worked, but most of the time when you ask to see your lab work or whatever, you don't get to just get to have that. They'll send it to your doctor, and your doctor will release it. Now here's what's funny. As a practical thing, by the way, not too long ago, I had a doctor, and this happened, I don't know, 5-6 years ago. I had a doctor who at first told me when I got labs done that we need to schedule an appointment for me to come in and discuss the labs. Then I was surprised when I got the labs opened to me on my chart, right, which is the customer portal, to be able to look at your own data. And I was surprised to see my labs were available before my doctor talked to me about it. And when I asked my doctor about that, I said, I thought you were going to have me come in and speak to you about my labs, but I was surprised to see that I already have my labs and I already know what the results are before we talk. Now, here's the funny thing about this, and I'm just going to give this as a personal experience. When I got my labs released to me in my chart, it shows what is a normal range for different things. It shows where you're at versus normal. So you can tell right by looking at a chart, am I in normal on almost everything? When you're abnormal and it shows you outside of a range of abnormality, it is easy to go onto the internet and say, hey, what is a such and such level of this mean, and why is it listed as outside abnormal range? And they'll tell you, oh, it's no big deal. It's frequent for it to be this, that. You can educate yourself in 2 seconds. You don't need to go see the doctor anymore for that discussion. But it used to be that they would hold you hostage. You don't even get to know what your labs were, what your cholesterol was, what your blood sugar was. You have to come to see those numbers. So when I got the numbers for myself and I can see the charts for myself and I realize everything's in normal and I'm happy, do I need to go see a doctor and have him charge me an office visit for him to tell me everything looks good on your labs? No, but he did it anyways. And when I got there, I said, hey, I was kind of surprised. I thought you were going to make me come in and talk to you about my labs. And he said, well, you know, new standards require us that we can't hold your medical information hostage, so we have to allow the patient to see their own medical records. So some kind of reform, in a way, small part, has worked in the sense that the doctor reluctantly is forced to let me see my lab work, whether or not he has an appointment for me or not. But it didn't stop him one bit from scheduling an appointment for him to talk about the lab works that I've already seen myself and could already interpret myself without having to be a doctor, because if everything's in normal, there's nothing really to talk about. It's all normal. But he still, again, scheduled me to come in and see him. So I don't know if I made my point. And that's it for chapter 17. Literally, it took me longer to bitch about chapter 17 than chapter 17 was. That's it. Super short chapter. Better healthcare in a digital age. Here she talks a little bit about how much money has gone into helping basically digitize the healthcare system. She talks about wearables here. So there's a wearables section talking about, you know, Fitbits and medical devices, jawbone things, and all these things. And basically says most of the time they're not really helpful. It's just a gimmick. But if it makes you feel better to know your numbers at all the time, which by the way won't necessarily be accurate and won't be necessary and won't probably tell you a whole lot. But if it makes you feel better and you're going to be more motivated to get out there and exercise because your Fitbit tells you should get up off your butt, then go ahead and use them, but they're not really all that useful. Then she tells us that in 2016, Fitbit, another popular fitness tracker, announced that it was moving into the medical grade tech tracking device market, which means the company will be seeking to bill insurance companies for its products. That's a growing thing. I've had plenty of smartwatches, and they'll tell you this is not a medical device, but they're trying to move into the medical device area, so if they can get FDA approval, then they can use it as a medical device, and then the cost will go through the roof for you. But guess what? You can get it covered under your insurance, as if that means that it doesn't cost you anything. It does. Somebody pays the piper down the road. Again, I know this is complex, and I feel like sometimes you're like, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. The whole system doesn't make sense. Now this is what I highlighted in blue because there's something here important, and I think it's towards the end of this. Yeah. For some people with certain chronic conditions, wearable monitors may be transforming. If you're prone to abnormal heart rhythms, a wrist monitor may provide an early warning system and even transmit potentially life-saving information to your doctor. If you're diabetic on insulin who is prone to wild swings in blood sugar, a continuous glucose monitor gives you frequent readings and alarms for dangerous levels. All those things sound great, so that she's kind of making the case for why wearables might be good. But very few patients fall into these categories. So it might be useful, but probably far less of us can use this kind of continual monitoring than we think. And then it continues. And at this time, many of these devices promise greater accuracy than they deliver and less than human health requires. Like an airbag that deploys at random stop signs, an inaccurate glucose monitor will set off alarms for no reason. The pros and cons are very specific to your health needs. Rely on advice from your doctor. That's the part, that whole paragraph I highlighted just so I can get to that last sentence. Rely on the advice of your doctor, who you just told us at like the start of last chapter. Your doctor is manipulating the system to bilk you for more money. Your doctor can't be trusted and is going to try to screw you every chance they can to get more money out of you, because your doctors in the healthcare system are corrupt and are billing you for things you don't need, charging you for visits to your hospital side to say hello, and charging it as a stop by visit. Your doctor visited you, smiled and said hello, billed you for a visit at your hospital. They're doing these things to screw you for money, and then she says rely on the advice of your doctor. Excellent. Excellent. Screening has become a marketing buzzword in American medicine. Early detection can be life-saving for some conditions. Pap smears have long prevented cervical cancer. Cholesterol screening can prevent heart disease, although if it's normal, it needs to be done only once every 5 years or so. That's something they don't tell you. They want to test my cholesterol all the time, but apparently if you're doing good on your cholesterol, you can go back 5 years later and see how it's doing 5 years ago, not every single year or maybe every 6 months checking your cholesterol. Unnecessary amounts of tests. But you have to educate yourself on that, because otherwise you just take your advice of your doctor. Hey, I'd like to see you back in 6 months to test your cholesterol again. Okay. But the scientific consensus is that many of the new high-tech screening techniques being promoted to healthy patients, such as checking for low T, which men get low T over time as they get older anyways, but if they'll check it and they tell you, oh, your testosterone levels are getting lower, and then tell you that must be a problem. Well, why is it declining? Well, let's get a pill for that. Maybe you don't need to. Maybe that's part of aging. Or getting an ultrasound of your neck to see if you have a narrowing of arteries, which also happens over time, are not much more useful than snake oil. There's no normal for such tests, and treatment brings new risks and dangers. So that's the thing. A lot of these things they'll tell you, oh yeah, we've detected this is happening in your body, not mentioning the fact that that happens to people as they get older. Then they'll give you unnecessary tests because something's different. My body's not working the same way that it was. Of course, as you get older, your body's not going to work the same way. But then they'll tell you that means that we should do something and do tests that are not necessary and perhaps even times dangerous to you. But hey, that brings in good money. Look at the publicized guidelines from these two organizations. So she mentions she mentions the U.S. Preventative Services Task Force or Choosing Wisely as two organizations that can help with basically consumer advocacy. Look at the publicized guidelines from these two organizations for screening and refuse anything else unless your primary care doctor gives you a convincing reason. Once again, the blue paragraph sentence makes me laugh. Your doctor is out to screw you and is manipulating the system to make money many times. Your hospital is out to screw you and make money many times. Your insurance company is out to screw you and make money many times. But when they give you some kind of test for screening, refuse it unless your doctor can give you a convincing reason. You already told me they're working against you and they're probably doing unnecessary things, and they're going to tell you that, yeah, you need it because I said so. Okay, so who do I trust? Right now, our medical information is held captive in disparate doctors' offices and hospitals. That isolates. So they're talking about how they digitized healthcare, and now all the doctors have their own digital systems, and they're independent from each other, and they're not talking to each other. That isolation translates into pointless expense because patients frequently have tests repeated. So if your doctor does a test and then doesn't release that to another hospital or whatever, your doctor's like, oh, well, I don't see anything on file for you in our doctor's office, so we're just going to go ahead and run that test to see how you're doing. Instead of taking the effort to go reach the other doctor that you had and getting their medical records sent over. Too much work. We'll just, what? We don't have any test on your last cholesterol. Let's go ahead and work up some cholesterol work, even though you just got it done from another doctor's, because they're not communicating with you, and it's by design, because each one of them can bill you for doing the same test you already got done, instead of just working with each other. So then she talks about how we should have everything in some kind of universal database. And this is where I basically highlighted a bunch of this. I'm just highlighting the shoulds and the coulds. Technology should allow for one-stop shopping. I should be able to go into my plan's online directory, which would show me in-network orthopedists within a 5-mile radius. I could schedule an appointment on my own, know how much I would have to pay, and even prepay the co-payment, rather than calling 3 receptionists to see which doctor's available, checking coverage with insurance, filling out the same form every time I visit the provider, and having a mailbox filled with paper statements for months afterwards. These sorts of interlocking online arrangements could become standard features of every contract between insurers and drug makers. The government could mandate adoption of or offer financial incentives to develop such patient-friendly features. They could, they should, but they're not. And you've told us that that's by design. So what have you really offered us in this book? Epilogue. Now this is a closing thought that I thought was important. The Fate of Empires is a book, describes an age of decadence into which all great societies, Rome, Greece, Persia, Great Britain, descend before they finally fall for good. The decadence, according to the author Sir John Glubb, is due to the period of wealth and power, selfishness, love of money, and loss of sense of duty. Does this sound familiar? Societies, it says, typically take over 200 years to get to the age of decadence. American healthcare has arrived far faster. We as a country are 250 years plus into our nation. Nations, as John Glubb has basically written about, nations tend to fall into decadence. Rome, Greece, Persia, Great Britain, all societies have a great uptick where everything is going great and things are wonderful and they're idealistic and they're doing the right things, and then they slide into decadence around 200 years and start to collapse. America's already passed the point of collapse on that time scale. So if that's enough data points, Rome, Greece, Persia, Great Britain, and more, if that's enough data points, then America already is past this point of collapse. So some great new nation is going to arise because America's on the downhill slide, because we are now focused on selfishness, love of money, loss of a sense of duty. We've lost our ideals. Now it's show me the money. We have become the society in decline now. Our country is collapsing, in my opinion. I don't think it can be fixed. Maybe I'm pessimistic. So that's part of my problem. Now, she continues on, closing the thought for the book. No one player created the mess that is the $3 trillion American medical system in 2017. This was exactly Andrew Whitty from United Health Group's argument, as basically, don't blame us, United Healthcare or United Health Group, for the problem in America. We didn't create the system. And that's what she's saying. No one player created the mess. It's not our fault. We didn't create the system. We would have designed a better system if we were designing it, but we didn't design it. So don't blame us. We're just using the system that was already in place. We didn't create it. People in every sector of medicine are feeding at the trough. Insurance, hospitals, doctors, manufacturers, politicians, regulators, charities, and more. People in sectors that have nothing to do with health, like banking, real estate, and tech, have also somehow found a way to extort cash from patients. They all need to change their money-chasing ways. They need to. We should be a better people. We should stop being so opportunistic. We should do the right thing. They need to change their money-changing ways. They're not going to, because that's what societies do when they get to this point. They become corrupt and they collapse. So that's where we are, in my opinion. To make this happen, however, we patients will need to change our ways. We must become bolder, more active, thoughtful about what we demand of our healthcare and the people who deliver it. We must be more engaged in finding pressing the political levers to promote the evolution of medical care that we deserve. I'm going to be super controversial in this thought. This is perhaps the motivation for somebody shooting, for example, Brian Thompson in United Healthcare, because the people are starting to get bold, and some people are going to try to do something to fix the system, because the politicians aren't going to fix it, the system's not going to fix itself, people aren't going to stop being greedy and caring about money. So I understand Elizabeth Rosenthal didn't think the solution, certainly wasn't writing that the solution in her book was go shoot a CEO, but this is what Elizabeth Rosenthal is basically saying. People need to become bolder. Somebody maybe, arguably, became bolder. Is it going to make a difference? Probably not, because it's a drop in the bucket. The system's too big. So she concludes with this. I hope this book that you have just finished has made you not just outraged, but also better prepared for these tasks. Yes, half of true. We are outraged. I'm outraged. I was already sick at the healthcare system. I am sicker after reading your book, so thank you very much. I am absolutely 100% outraged. Am I better prepared? No. Your book basically ended with, and there's nothing you can do with it, suck it up, Buttercup, it's here to stay. That's the premise of your book. So you didn't deliver, in my opinion, Elizabeth Rosenthal, on your book's opening statement. It's it's basically about the, what was it called? What's the title of the book? Anyways, it's an American sickness, and it's basically how we got so shitty and what you can do about it. You didn't deliver on the and what you can do about it part, in my opinion, but that's my opinion, and that's what's sold. That's what's sold to you as the newest drug or device to treat your illness may not be in fact the best. That the anesthesiologist. So basically, let me back this up. She's trying to explain to us how now we can be better informed. Now you understand. This is her summary point. At least her book better made you understand this potential problem. Now you understand that the free coffee and artwork displayed at your hospital's marble atrium aren't free at all, because again, somebody's paying it down the road. That's what's sold to you as the what is sold to you as the newest drug or device to treat your illness may not be, in fact, the best. That the anesthesiologist who comes to say hi before a procedure is perhaps not just being kind, but making an appearance so he or she can bill his extender bill for the consult. You're wise to do the heist and emboldened with new tools. You're wise to the heist and emboldened with new tools and ideas about how to make or take back your healthcare and your medical system. We can't take back your healthcare and your medical system. High-priced healthcare in America is a sickness that we're all paying, being robbed. When the medical industry presents us with the false choice of money or your life, it's time for us all to take a stand for the latter. Well, in America, somebody may have taken a stand on the streets of New York City. I'm not saying that you should do that. I'm not calling to action and nothing like that. Again, I don't condone violence. But what you have seen is a healthcare system out of control, broken, and essentially the leading person who wrote the book on how bad it is has told you, in essence, and nothing can be done about it. So, are people trying to take a stand? Maybe. Is it going to make a difference? Probably not. So that's my depressing end to what was essentially a very, very depressing book. But I want to thank you all, readers, listeners, whatever you want to call yourself, as you went along with this journey with me. Thank you for sticking with me. Some of you were extremely vocal during this book review, encouraging me every step of the way, telling me how important the work was, how you appreciate the review of the book. Unfortunately, I wish that I could have delivered a better ending to the book, but I'm following the author's lead, and frankly, the author's ending is not great. It's like, hey, your system is shit. It should be fixed. But that's not helpful. So that's the end. I will look for another opportunity to find something in the wheelhouse of Luigi Mangione for us to read. It's possible. It's possible that we'll look into Ted Kaczynski's The Unabomber's quote-unquote manifesto that Luigi Mangione, according to Goodreads, indicated that was a good message, but it got lost by the delivery. So that's probably where I'm going next, unless I find a better book. If you have an idea for a book to review, if you liked this series, and if you liked the idea of a book review club like we've done, please let us know, let me know, not us, let me know a title that you would like me to consider as I work on what's next for the Luigi's Bookshelf. Thank you very much.